My first guest is one of the world's most inspirational women changing the shape of design. Sinéad Burke has been hailed as one of the most influential people in fashion. This year, she's graced the cover of Vogue, hung out with world leaders, and launched a hit podcast featuring some of the biggest names on the planet. Please welcome Sinéad Burke! Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
What a treat. Look at this footstool.
It's all right, isn't it?
It's great.
We made that especially for you.
Well, I thought it was yours and I just borrowed it. So.
It's pretty nifty. Do you know what's really funny? Can I just show you?
Please.
This is how cheap we are. We didn't do that bit. There you go. Lovely. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
It's such a treat. I got to see you perform in Dublin with all of my family.
Well, that sounds strange.
It was both the private gig and then the public one.
Yeah.
Both were really good.
I mean, it sounded like a gangbang. I mean,
And ancestral for me, not for you.
Yeah. I'm impressed with your life. It's
Well,
just...
thanks.
Because like, a couple of years ago, you were a school teacher.
Yeah.
And you've gone from school teacher to fashion.
Yeah.
Like, you were on the front cover of Vogue.
It's ridiculous.
Like, how does that happen?
I've been interested in fashion for as long as I can remember. And speaking of my family, I'm the eldest of 5 children.
Right.
And I have 3 sisters and 1 brother. And they're all average height like you. So I'm the only little person among my siblings.
Right.
My dad is a little person, and my mother is average height.
Right.
And I became interested in fashion because as the eldest, I thought it was my responsibility to show my sisters the way through, like, retail. And we would go shopping all together, and I would pick up a pair of high heels, and they would have to tell me that only they could wear them, I couldn't.
Right.
And I remember thinking it was just so unjust because if I'm sitting across from you in a full-length lace and silk custom Burberry dress, that tells you something about me. But yet fashion had never considered me either as somebody who could work in it or as somebody who wanted to participate, and we all wear clothes. So I had this insatiable appetite and would read and learn everything I could about the fashion industry and would sit at home telling my parents and my family members everything that I knew, and they were desperately bored.
I find that hard to believe because...
No, they couldn't care less.
But you're so compelling because, as you can tell, I'm not really interested in fashion. I slept in this last night. I've had the same jeans on for about a week now, and my dog likes those socks. And yet you make me want to come shopping with you.
Anytime. What are you up to tomorrow?
Mate, I'm up for that.
Yeah.
But what a life, though. So are you now this sort of fashionista full-time?
Well, I started with a blog 10 years ago. Because of my parents and my family not being interested, the internet was this amazing place where I could find other people who were interested, who didn't live in my small town. And that evolved to, like, doing a TED Talk in New York and then talking to people in the fashion industry. And it's so surreal to see that teenager who desperately wanted to be part of it to now be on the front cover of Vogue and to be attending fashion shows as if that has always happened.
How did you get the Vogue front cover?
Through a mix of opportunities, I was at a fashion show and I looked next to me and Edward Enninful, who's the editor-in-chief of Vogue, was sat next to me. And I texted my best friend and was like, Edward fucking Enninful is sitting next to me. And he was like, don't let him leave without saying hello. And I was like, okay. So for the whole fashion show, I was like trying to rehearse a script as to how I would introduce myself. And he got up to leave and I tugged on the sleeve of his jacket. And he was like, hello? And I was like, hi, my name is Sinead. I think it's really good what you're doing in terms of inclusion in fashion. I actually have a real big interest in disability in fashion. We should talk. He was like, okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a card? I was like, yes, many. Which would you like?
Oh, really?
Yeah. And
We had loads of different
I was like, pick one, like a magician.
He's on that nectar point.
I was like, once it has my name, you'll find me.
Yeah.
And from there, I kind of flew back and forth to the Vogue offices, telling him about the work that I was doing. He then put me on this power list, which is the 25 most influential women in the UK and Ireland.
Wow.
And then in between all of that, Prince Harry and Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan, had come to Ireland to do a state visit, and we'd had this conversation, and she came down to eye level, and we spoke about the importance of fashion, never knowing that those 2 moments would then lead to me getting this email with the subject line, very confidential, can you take a phone call from Vogue? And I was like, okay. I was in this, like, small street in Dublin, and I was like, hello? And they were like, would you like to be on the cover of Vogue? I was like, sure.
Did you know the pose you were going to strike?
No. I'm not a model by any stretch of the imagination, but the idea of standing in front of some of the best photographers in the world. Peter Lindbergh shot the Vogue cover, and he's since passed, and he's like the best portrait photographer in the world. And I was on a set with Adwa Mboa, who's an incredible model, and all of these amazing people. And he's like, "Okay, Sinead, your turn, pose." And you're like... He's like, "Maybe we'll tone it down a little bit." And you're like...
Oh, that would have been great, though, mate. Imagine just somebody on the front of Vogue like that. Wouldn't that have been lovely? Just
Can you imagine my mother's reaction? She'd be like, "And where is this displayed?" And you're like, "All over the world." She's like, "Lovely."
But I'm curious, so do you, given that you don't feel naturally like, you're used to having photos, are you now sort of like cool with it?
Well, so
you like having your photo taken?
I don't dislike it, but I'm not entirely comfortable with it either. But there's like, you have to like stand and kind of turn 3/4 length so they get a hint of waist and a hint of hips. Yeah. And then you have to like look honest.
Look honest?
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know what that means,
Is that what they said to you?
That's what they said. They said, "You have a very honest face." And I was like...
And you're like, "Shit, I fucking nicked all the biscuits from the hotel."
All in my bag.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly...
You're still nicking stuff from hotels, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
I have so much shampoo and conditioner.
I don't trust anyone that travels the world around and doesn't steal from hotels. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those things...
What's your best theft?
Best theft? I once nicked a phone. My mum got a kettle, which is top drawer.
Hey.
What was the Met Gala like? Because that's the Oscars of fashion.
Yeah. I would like to tell you that I woke that morning incredibly excited and enthusiastic, but I was vomiting my guts up. I was so nervous.
Why were you nervous?
Because it was something that I'd wanted to do forever, but it's this institution within the fashion system. Like, it's a fundraiser and it's a party, but tickets are so expensive. You have to be invited by a brand, and a Wintour has to approve you going. Right. Somebody like me had never been before. Yeah. There is a big, long, 21 steps that you have to walk through, and paparazzi and photographers literally scream your name. The world is watching. Anybody who's famous is in that room. Yeah. And I remember being so nervous, almost to an extent that I didn't think I'd be able to go. So I rang my dad, and I was like, "Dad, I don't think I can do it." And he was like, "Sinead, it's a party in a museum. You'll be fine." And just amazing moments. Like, you end up doing a dance-off with Katy Perry as she's dressed as a burger.
You're like ringing your dad up, going, "It's not like a normal party then." And he's like, "Tell me, is it Katy Perry dressed as a burger?" "You'll be fine."
Yeah. And she had like this lettuce dress on underneath, so she kept extracting herself from the burger, and then the two of us were dancing around the burger. She was in a lettuce dress, which sounds like something that would only happen on acid, but it's real.
So, are you aiming to change the fashion industry from the inside out?
You know...
What would you like to see change?
The entire system.
What do you mean by the system?
So I dreamed of working in the fashion industry and wearing clothes. Now, I'm very lucky at the moment that I have a beautiful wardrobe that I just couldn't even have imagined would be possible. And the solution is not me being dressed beautifully, it's just a starting point. Yeah. But you know, what you and I might need in terms of clothes is actually quite similar, because you might buy these pair of jeans and actually they're 2 inches too long, so you have to go in and get them altered. Right. Same for me. I just have to get more fabric altered. Right. So making that customization and that alteration process part of the system. But actually, I want to see a disabled CEO of a fashion company. I want to be able to see disabled people attending the front row of fashion shows. And it's like, how do we change HR policies? As a society, we're so comfortable asking people if they have any sort of food requirement if they're vegan, but we never ask people if they have any access requirements, because we're like, yeah. And how do we normalize that culture of access and inclusion in fashion? Because I think if fashion steps forward, every other industry will. Yeah. Well, we were talking about this on the show last week, that 40% of train stations in the UK can't be used if you're disabled, which is just extraordinary when you sort of think about it. It's about empathy, isn't it? Sort of. And if you need assistance in those train stations, you have to ring 48 or 24 hours in advance in order to book that assistance. Yeah. And if you show up because you have decided, I don't know, to get a train at the last minute, they may not be able to help you. Or I had an amazing experience on the Eurostar trying to book a ticket recently, where I rang and they said, if you need an accessible ticket, ring this number. And I rang and they said, are you a wheelchair user? And I said, no, but I'm a little person. I'm going to find it really difficult to get on the train. They said, you can't actually buy this ticket. This ticket is only for wheelchair users. You just need an ordinary ticket. And I was like, this makes no sense. And he said, because there's no seat. And I said, so if I hire a wheelchair in Paris, use it on the train, and then discard it somewhere in London, I can get this ticket. And they were like, yeah. Wow.
And you just want to scream at that point.
But it's not that individual's fault, but it's just the way in which we think about it. We've categorized everything so marginally that if you don't fit in the box, there's no solution. And then I had to be lifted onto the train.
Is that what happened?
Yeah, the gap was just so enormous that I couldn't get on.
And is that still demeaning?
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine what that must... Is it that moment where you're like, well, I have to get on the fucking thing?
Yeah.
But it must just... it must feel awful.
But who do you ask?
Yeah, right.
You know, do you ask a member of staff and do you hope that they have the strength by which to lift you?
Yeah.
What happens if they drop you?
Yeah.
Or do you ask a stranger for help? And it's all of that making yourself vulnerable in public in order to just do the same things that everybody else does.
Yeah, right.
And it's that constant negotiation, but it's made me who I am.
But that's what's extraordinary about you, because in spite of all those difficulties, the very fact that you're kind of here, you're at the Met Gala, you're visiting every school in Dublin.
Yeah. I did an experience earlier this year in Dublin where I was just walking down the street and two 16-year-old boys walked past me. I thought nothing of it until maybe a minute later, and one of them jumped over me from behind.
Yeah.
All the while, his friend recorded the entire thing on his phone.
Right.
And lots of people walked past. Nobody asked if I was okay. I rang my mother straight away, and she said, get the police involved. And I did, but with a background in education, I was like, you know, what happens if these two boys get caught? All they learn is not to get caught.
Yeah.
They don't actually learn any empathy or any understanding. And I have a friend who works for the Northeast Inner City, which is an organisation in Dublin. His name is Michael Darragh Macaulay. And I called him and I said, listen, I want to do something that will actually have an impact. Can we go into all of the schools in these areas?
Yeah.
He was like, sure. And I went into all of the primary schools and all of the secondary schools and literally facilitated questions about the fact that I didn't choose to be in this body.
Yeah.
But how we behave to ourselves and to others every day is a choice. But actually, I think I'm really lucky. I walk into a room and automatically you can figure out that I need a footstool full of newspapers. Besides your special eye, I don't know what your challenge is. But an amazing moment happened afterwards. So we went into all of these schools, had conversations, and then at the end of being 16 in Ireland, you have to do a state exam, which is similar to the GCSEs here. Yeah. And without any knowledge of, I had no idea it was happening, the English exam that these boys sat was a transcription of my TED Talk. Wow. So let's just look at the full circle here, right? Yeah. For entertainment, they jumped over me and got a modicum of success on Instagram. I then appeared in their school and they're like, shit. And then their English exam is based on my life. That's amazing.
That is, I mean, as far as revenge goes, that is...
I had no hand active part in it.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. That's been absolutely amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, the wonderful Sinead Burke. That was so great.